And we are live. And as always, takes a second. Hi, everyone. We're going to start talking here, see who's going to be joining us. We are live after the Dolphins. Well, that was something. 20-17 win against the Jacksonville Jaguars on opening day at Hard Rock Stadium. A game that was not a work of art, but certainly highlighted my friend Ken Levica, by the way, who's joining me, ESPN talk show host, the voice of Florida Atlantic football, and as you can tell by his Dolphins jacket, a big Dolphin fan. First of all, Ken, how are you?
Pope, I'm better now. I'm exhausted. That for a vast majority of that game was not fun. I did not have fun experiencing that, but I suppose in a week one against a pretty good, many people think playoff caliber team, you know what? I'll take it. Enough of the throws to the flat on third down. We saw success when you started committing to just running between the tackles. Let's keep doing that a little bit more.
Alec Ingold, star, one of the unsung heroes of this game. Biggest star, though, has to be Javon Holland with the play of the game where it was going to be 24/7, and then boom. And if you see the replay, and it's clear that was not a coincidence. He literally went for the punch, smack on the ball, and nailed it.
Poop, may I suggest that we're going with the Javon jab in that spot? So all the newspaper writers, all of the content creators, I won't charge you anything for it, but I think there's something there, the Javon jab.
That's not bad. I like that. Or almost, how about the Holland hook?
Oh, see, I was trying to think of the H the whole time, and that's why I went with jab. Oh, that might be better. Now I'm upset. Oh, man, that's really good.
Send donations for the idea to Poupar NFL on Twitter. No, as I said, it was no work of art. But again, this is with the thing with the Dolphins. The great equalizer, as you saw after that play from Holland, boom, one play to Tyreek, and voila, instead of 24-7, it's 17-14.
It's been since the start of the McDaniel era. You get in a hole or things are stagnant, and all it takes is one guy in space. And just like we saw with the 80-yard Tyreek Hill touchdown, there wasn't a lot of space. It all came down to the fact that the protection was good up to that point. That had been a dicey proposition, and Tua didn't have his first two options, so he was deep into his progressions at that point. And in fact, at that point, you're just sort of looking for someone who's going to come and help you. And Tyreek Hill just dragging down the field about 30 yards, and he caught it, and it looked like he was going to get pinned against the sideline. But with that speed, like you're talking about, Poop, he's able to get a step, able to evade an ankle tackle from behind, and the game was never the same after that. The Dolphins still tried to self-inflict some wounds after that, but the game was never the same after that. Everything tilted in the Dolphins' favor after that.
No, without question. And the defense, which was, for the most part, actually pretty good, really picked it up. And then we had the sacks at the end on the back-to-back plays by Emmanuel Ogbah and Jalen Phillips. And again, if anybody has dealt with Jalen Phillips on a professional level, that's the guy you want to root for. Very happy that he got a sack. Obviously, he came on a big play on a third down play to force that last punt. And at that point, it seemed almost inevitable the Dolphins are going to pull it out.
Yeah, and no doubt, Poop. And I think, too, we've spent the last several weeks talking about who's signed, who's got their money, who's got their long-term interests taken care of. So you've got Tua, and you've got Tyreek, and you've got Jalen Ramsey. And the guy who's talked a little bit about it, but no overtures made this offseason, but is due for a payday next offseason, is the guy who saved the day. And I know that it's overreaction. Anytime there's week one and different things happen, and it really stands out because we've been rearing to go for months to see football that means something. But Javon Holland, what an early salvo into the, hey, Chris Greer, look at that, pay me, I'm first up in the offseason going into 2025 with stuff like that, because the Dolphins do not win this game unless Javon Holland is there. Desperation Holland hook or Javon jab to keep ETN from getting into the end zone.
Yeah, because he was on his way. I mean, he had like a big crease, and that basically was the only thing that was going to save the day. And I mean, talk about huge. And then the running game, which was complete hot garbage in the first half, came to life in the fourth quarter. All of a sudden, you saw like a run. There was a drive. It's like 6 yards at the 14-yard run by Jeff Wilson Jr. And again, to complement You have the 80-yard touchdown pass to Tyreek Hill. You have a 63-yard completion to Jalen Waddle. And early in the game, you have like a quick hitter to Devon Achane, a little bit of a crease, and boom, it's 39 yards. So again, the Dolphins' speed forgives a lot of sloppiness that they have. That's just that's who they are. That's who they've been for the past couple of years, and that's why they're a good team, and they can overcome it generally like a lackadaisical performance.
Right. You don't want to live off of that. What they did today against the Jags is not sustainable over the course of a 17-game season. But in the first half, Poop, combined, Raheem Mostert and Achane had 15 total yards, not each, combined on the ground. There was nothing there. And so I understand that Mike McDaniel likes to use the short passing game as almost a substitute or a variation of the running game. But there was just nothing there because there was nothing in the short pass game either. And so there was a commitment to the run game, especially in the fourth quarter, but a lot of it came from Jeff Wilson, and then you had Achane, and you stopped trying to hit the edges constantly. There was a lot of north-south running in the fourth quarter as well, almost as if the Jags were starting to get a little bit tired. The offensive line, for the first time all game, was starting to get some leverage. That Alex Ingold short first down conversion, of all people, Liam Eichenberg won immediately at the point of attack and cleared out the entire 5-6 yard box around him. And Ingold simply just had to take 2 steps forward and lean in to get the first down. The offensive line has a lot of issues. And it's clear anytime Chris Greer says, you're more worried about the O-line than me. No, I guess you're right, Chris. And I think for good reason, okay? I understand you feel good about it. I don't, even after today. But credit where credit's due. The offensive line in the fourth quarter, for the exception of late in the third, you had Tua get sacked and push the Dolphins out of field goal range after the big completion to Jalen Waddle. Fourth quarter, especially in the run game, that offensive line did some significant things to help win the game. And it almost didn't matter the Jason Sanders field goal because Alec Ingold almost broke another first down run for a long touchdown that would have ended the game with 15 seconds left to go.
Yeah, no doubt. On the second, third and one that he converted, hat tip to Ingold because somebody got to him in the backfield, and he powered through. So props there. Also, major props on the play that maybe wasn't that noticed because we didn't notice Jalen Ramsey gave up the 40-yard DPI in the first half. We did see he was the one closest in coverage on the touchdown pass to Brian Thomas Jr. on a beautiful throw by Trevor Lawrence in zone coverage. Right. But props to Jalen Ramsey on that fourth down stop of Travis Etienne. If you remember the play, Etienne's running to his left. He's got Emmanuel Ogbah in chase mode, and Jalen Ramsey's right there to no, you're not getting the corner. So Etienne is like, oh crap.
And he had to retreat. Right. I don't know if you saw on that play too, Poop. Jalen Phillips got stood up by Trevor Lawrence. He was coming back the other way. And I saw it coming. I'm like, oh, God, no. Please don't let my favorite pass rusher in football get humiliated by the long blonde-haired quarterback. And so luckily, Trevor Lawrence really didn't want a whole lot of that, made contact with him, but definitely didn't follow through. But that pursuit on that play was spectacular. And that's when you knew the Jags were dead. You go forward in that spot. That's desperation call. And it was fresher legs. The defense was really feeling it at that point. And we've talked so much about the run game and the offensive line and the offense of Mike McDaniel, Tua, and Tyreek and Jalen Waddle. In the second half especially, that defense, that Anthony Weaver defense, that's championship level defense right there. And there were portions of the first half, Poop, where I said, boy, we miss Christian Wilkins an awful lot, especially against the run, as you're getting gouged and there are big holes between the tackles. But then in the second half, whether it was Calais Campbell or whether it was Ogbah, you were getting pressure from the edges. You were able to finally get the run game under control, especially after Holland stripped Etienne. That was a really dominant, strong, feel-good defensive performance, all things considered. When things settled off, the Jags couldn't really do anything with the football in the second half.
No, and Jacksonville finished with 267 total yards, which is a very, very low total. They were only 2 for 10 here as I look at some stats on third downs. Dolphins wound up with 400 on the nose, 8 for 16 on third down. That's your ball game right there. That's a huge difference. And then, by the way, and again, both punters, hat tip, Jake Bailey, big game for the Dolphins. The Jacksonville punter was outrageous too. Big game by both of those guys. And again, Tua 338, Tyreek Hill 130, Jalen Waddle 109. I mean, it's just, and again, it's that same formula. And it's not like opponents don't know it's coming. Good luck. Right. And if you remember the play, the long one to Waddle, it's another one where one of the safeties who had the responsibility deep on the side went up because Tyreek Hill was running in, and Waddle just ran a deep slant right behind him. Thank you very much. And easy pitch and catch 63 yards later,
If I'm not mistaken, Poop, at a halftime, Tua had 138 through the air, something in that neighborhood. I know him and Trevor Lawrence were pretty tight, but I'm looking at the passer rating. He was at 75, and Trevor Lawrence is in the upper 90s in that spot. Tua finishes the game with above a 100 passer rating, 23 of 37. He was on pace to be right around 50% passing in the opening half or after 2 quarters of football. He finishes 62-2 in that category. He rallied a lot, and I think that he showed a lot of poise. He also used his legs a couple of times at the right time and looked mobile. It was an under control performance. And was it spectacular? No. Was there plenty to quibble with in the first half? Sure. But Tua did the job of a newly paid quarterback in the second half, and he was the better quarterback of the 2 paid quarterbacks on the field in the second half. Tua outplayed the one until on the other side, in my opinion.
Okay, and this is, I know this is going to be popular because there's somebody in the comments who wrote a comment about the quarterbacks. Well, can we start with the idea that Trevor Lawrence doesn't have Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle, number one. Number two, I will say this about Tua. Awful lot of quick completions, run after that 39-yard catch to pass to HN in the first half. It's basically it's a 1-yard pass and 38 yards of yak. Having said that, I thought Tua played very well. And he also wasn't held by a couple of drops by Durham Smythe, who had a really, really rough game. Johnny Smith also didn't have a good game. He had a drop. Trevor Lawrence also was, by the way, Trevor Lawrence's final passer rating was 97.7, which is nothing to sneeze at. He also, Christian Kirk couldn't catch a cold.
No. And you could argue he should have had that third down throw near the sideline outside the numbers. No, you're right. You're exactly right. I think that was Kohu in coverage who got lost there.
Yeah. No, but my point here is I thought both quarterbacks were fine. Both quarterbacks played well. Tyreek Waddle, much better than Christian Kirk, Brian Thomas Jr., who's very, very good, by the way, and Gabe Davis. So, again,
I think what happens, too, when you have this Dolphins offense, where especially this time of year, you're used to at least every other drive, you can have a long sustained drive or you're going to have a big hitter at some point. And that was the case last year for the first 2.5 months of the season. It was every other drive you were in a position to score. This was downright sputter, stop for an entire half of football for the most part. And it was almost, to me, it was jarring to the senses to see this thing stuck in the mud the way it was. And credit to the Jags, because in the first half, I mean, that game plan was sensational. And they had 6, 7 in the box they were pursuing. They were faster to the edges than the ball carriers, and they were really shutting a lot of that short game down and especially that run game down. There was just absolutely nothing there. And so, man, this is stagnant. The frustration's mounting. You heard some boos here and there, and finally things broke loose. And it speaks to, and again, is this a title caliber Dolphins team? I don't know. I tend to say no, but they're certainly playoff caliber.
Toward the towel.
Right. But you're not gonna. You saw firsthand how hard it is to keep the Dolphins offense down, at least in conditions like this fast track for 4 quarters. That was fully on display on a pedestal today, and the Jags fell victim to that. And it was wildly noticeable what was happening from about the end of the third quarter on.
Without question. And again, that speed and that ability to strike so quickly compensates for a lot of things. One of them being like, I don't know. I hate coaches who are overly conservative, but first drive of the season, 4th and 8 from the Jacksonville 42-yard line. To me, either try a 60-yard field goal or punt the damn ball. I mean, again, it's a little over the top for me, and I'm the first one who's going to bitch about a coach being too conservative.
Right. Now, but I'm with you, and make no mistake, I like the Mike McDaniel, Dan Campbell school of just bleep it, let's go. But beginning of the season, you're a couple of minutes into your season, and you're going for it 4th and 8 right around midfield. I agree with you. At that point, it's just sort of you're trying to show off, and that ended up being a complete wreck as it was. There was no reason for that. It was almost as if it was a Mike McDaniel, let's go out there and play some vibes football, and it was not there in the first half. There were no vibes there. But I'm curious from you, Poop, just overall, and man, did we digest and consume a lot in those 4 quarters, because we saw maybe the worst of the Dolphins and then some of the best of the Dolphins all in a 60-minute span there. Hey, what's your big overlying takeaway? And I guess I'm curious in the comments as well, your big overlying takeaway from this week 1 win over the Jags.
This is not going to play well, but I think my big overall takeaway is wash, rinse, repeat. That was my thought heading into the regular season when I'm asked what the Dolphins going to do, and I'm like, kind of pretty much the same thing as last year. Mm-hmm. It's a team that's got too much speed, too much talent on offense to not be good. I still don't know whether they're good enough when their speed gets neutralized either by weather conditions, by defensive scheme down the stretch, whether they can win games where, fundamentals and other stuff come into play a little bit more.
Yeah.
But again, it's going to be a fun ride because more than likely they're going to put themselves in position to where they're going to be relevant in contention for big things, maybe even the number 1 seed in the AFC playoffs by the time December comes around.
Right.
So,
right.
Your big takeaway would be what?
Well, outside of Tyreek Hill being put in handcuffs and the back of his knees apparently being kicked out and delivered to the ground before kickoff, that was a major takeaway of mine. But as far as the game is concerned, I thought that the defense, after a rough start and Trevor Lawrence picking his spots, I thought that rally was sensational. And I thought that the pass rush was extremely encouraging. Jalen Phillips, did he look a half step slow? Maybe. But for a guy coming off of an Achilles tear, boy, did he make his presence felt. He did not look like, at least from a pain standpoint, he was feeling any sort of adverse effects from that. And I thought that all things considered, linebackers, front 7, corners, all right. But I thought that the Jags had a tough time in the second half, and I thought the pursuit, the aggression, that was really, really, really strong under a new defensive coordinator coming in and installing an entirely new system, and the way that they turned the page and things were able to evolve as the game went on. I was extremely encouraged by that for sure.
I'm going to give another hat tip. That's what I don't give game balls. I give hat tips. David Long Jr. also, I thought had a very strong game as well.
Yep.
Interesting. I'm going to give a hat tip for no other reason than he was active. Storm Duck, rookie free agent, being active over Ethan Bonner, who some in the media had blown up to be quite respectfully more than what he actually is. But Storm Duck's a guy the Dolphins have liked for a while. So, and then he had a really good play, open field tackle on Etienne to stop him after a 1-yard gain. Unfortunately, that was like a 2nd and 1 play, so he got the first down anyway.
Yeah.
But he did well. And then offensively, Robert Jones, my buddy, got to cut out those holding penalties.
Right.
This is also where there might have been a play or two where there's somebody else on the offensive line who had got a lot more of a reputation, who did kind of the same thing but didn't get called. And this is where Robert Jones, unfortunately, has to pay his dues to be in a position where the officials are going to be like, oh, wait, that's Robert Jones. I can't be holding. Mm-hmm. He's not at that point. But again, like I said, no work of art. Bottom line is they won the game. So final thoughts from you before we go to our viewer comments?
I think that it was certainly not aesthetically pleasing for at least the opening half, but you saw the best of the Dolphins offense in the second half, and you saw a defense that got better as the game went on. And Trevor Lawrence, who was rolling, he was in rhythm. The Dolphins weren't getting any pressure on him outside of the first 2 plays of the game, actually. And suddenly everything started to collapse. And to me, the better team won, but these are the types of week 1 games you're going to get where everybody thinks they're on an even playing field. But that's a good quality win over a playoff team today for the Dolphins.
No, I agree. And although I am not sure if, what was I going to say? I am not 100% sure that I would agree with you. In the end, overall, the Dolphins were the better team. Early on, they weren't the better team. And again, this is where once you got the big momentum changer with the Javon Holland play, the Dolphin defense stepped up and came up big, and Jacksonville kind of shriveled.
Yeah, they definitely shriveled. And I think, too, again, the Dolphins in the second half, and especially in the critical moments, they were the better team. But it all started cascade. It was a landslide after Javon Holland's punch out of ETN. Like that changed the entire complexion of everything. And then, though, after all of that, to be able to overcome Jason Sanders' missed field goal, who if you had, he hooked it left. If you had an entirely other goalpost, it would have to the left of the actual goalpost, it would have been no good there too. Like, that's how badly Jason Sanders missed it. But you overcome that. You're stingy defensively. The offense gets the ball back. Like, that's this sort of this is going to sound corny and so coach-like of me, but overcoming adversity that you find, especially at the start of a season, that at least makes you feel good when you're feeling like, man, this was ragged, and but man, that could have sunk them, and instead it didn't. Like, that can make you a little bit more optimistic after that.
Yeah, as I put on Twitter after the first miss, I've seen a lot of ugly field goals in my life, and that definitely was one of them. But here's the thing with the dude is he's been spotty with this consistency the last couple of years, but whenever there's a big field goal to be made, that dude always comes through.
Oh, for sure. For sure. And there was no doubt on that last field goal that was going through without a shadow of a doubt. I get the sense, though, that there's just this overlying angst with the Dolphins. Even on social media right after the game, like, people are messaging me, that was terrible. Like, that sucked. Like, why, as Dolphins fans, are you allowed to be spoiled? I don't. Like, come on. Like, what are we doing? You haven't. This is a quest to get back to the postseason again. It's going to be tough. You're in a difficult division. You win a game over a team that's probably going to be in the playoffs with another paid quarterback, and you're going to sit here and say, "Oh, it wasn't pretty enough." What did pretty get you last year? So stop with that nonsense. I don't want to hear that it wasn't pretty enough, or it wasn't attractive enough to you. Stop it. Enough already. Don't be picky and spoiled.
Ask the Cincinnati Bengals if they would take an ugly win right now after they got shocked by the New England Patriots.
I mean, come on.
And how many people got knocked out of their survivor pool? If you're familiar with those.
Yeah.
You're one of those, aren't you?
Yeah, I am.
You had Cincinnati, right?
Yep. And it hurts, and I'm upset, Poop. I'm not going to lie. I'm very angry.
Don't take it out on me, dude.
I'm sorry that I got snippy there. Yeah, no, but I mean, absolutely. And the Patriots, they're a 4-win team. They're a 4-win team, and they got dominated at the line of scrimmage pretty much all game. And so I would much rather be in the Dolphins position than the Bengals position right now, still with overlying wide receiver contract drama simmering over the proceedings.
Yeah. No, and then even in Buffalo, you think the folks in Buffalo are necessarily thrilled to them? They beat the Cardinals 34-28 by 6 points. So again, as Herm Edwards would say, you play to win the game. The Dolphins won. Dolphin fans should be happy about it. Again, there's a lot to work on. This is week 1. If they're as good now as they're going to be, as they're ever going to be, first of all, it'd be a first in the NFL, and then second of all, it would be bad. But so
yeah. Yeah, no, I'm with you. And also, too, we mentioned the Patriots and the Bengals. I mean, look at the Falcons. They go out, they get a free agent quarterback, they bring in Judon, they sign Justin Simmons. What happens? Justin Fields, who the Falcons passed over in the offseason, he comes down, an 11th hour start for the Steelers, and the Steelers outplayed the Falcons, and the Steelers defense looked good, really frustrated that Falcons offense. Justin Fields looked fine. So again, if you're driving around right now, or if you're sitting at home right now watching this, or you're in the parking lot watching this, and any part of you is like, man, that feels a little bit like a black mark going into the week. Stop. Stop. Yeah, the Dolphins played well enough when it mattered. They got things rolling. There was plenty of pregame drama that could have sunk everything. And all things considered, the guy who is at the center of that played really well and made some really impactful plays in this one. So this could have gone a whole lot worse for you. A whole lot worse.
Okay, a couple of quick things before we get to we attack the viewer questions or comments. Number one, I will not discuss the Tyreek Hill situation beyond what we wrote on Miami Dolphins on SI.com because we don't know all the details.
Right.
What we have basically is the reporting, what Drew Rosenhaus has told other reporters, and then let's look at the police report. I know the optics don't look bad from a police standpoint, but again, let's wait until all the facts come in. And then number two, this is for Dolphin fans who like some of the former players, even if they can like players, even if they're on other teams. Another hat tip, Andrew Van Ginkel, pick six and a sack in his first game with the Minnesota Vikings. So,
nice. Now, I don't know how many Dolphins fans are into Mike Gesicki, but he had a touchdown called off today for the Bengals. That
you know what? I think I'm going to go out on a limb and say there's a lot more support for Andrew Van Ginkel than for Mike Gesicki.
Yeah, I figured I was testing the waters with that one just to see. Yes.
Okay, Ken, you ready to attack some comments, questions? Okay.
Let's do it.
When we're going to put them on the screen here. Matt, and we thank everyone who contributes. We appreciate it. Matt, should we be worried about McDaniel? Felt like we took off at the same spot from last year. No adjustments when things aren't working, at least in my rookie eyes. You want to attack it first or want me to go first?
Go ahead, and I'll piggyback off you, Poop.
I was hoping you'd go first and I just say what Ken said, but fine. Well, considering the Dolphins completely dominated the second half once they got the takeaway from Javon Holland, I'm not sure about the whole adjustment thing. Mm-hmm. The running game started working in the late stages of the third quarter, fourth quarter. Now, was that the heat taking a toll on the Jacksonville defense and then the Dolphins being able to take advantage of that? Was it some kind of adjustment at the line that they made? Certainly looked to me like, and again, they won. Mike McDaniel knows what he has. He also knows he can coach differently from other teams, and that's a fact because he's got two wide receivers who can go 50 at any time.
Yeah. So for me with Mike McDaniel, and I am huge fan. I am a believer in him. That said, especially multiple times today, third and short, and I get the importance of throwing to the edges and trying to keep defenses' eyes towards the sidelines, and then you can hit them up the middle. But in critical third down situations where you're thrown to the flat or you have a delayed wheel route with a blocker in front and it's destined to fail. But what Mike McDaniel needs to realize, this is year 3 of Mike McDaniel, the head coach, okay? There is plenty of film. There is plenty on tape of tendencies and different elements, especially throwing out of the backfield, that Mike McDaniel likes to rely on, that likes to throw a little bit of a wrench in this is part of our run game, except we're throwing it short yardage, and then we're using the blocker in front, and we're trying to navigate through that. But the Jags clearly had that sniffed out today. And it's this stubborn insistence on continuing to go to it that drives me crazy. So I'm not worried about Mike McDaniel, but again, I know that he's smart and I know that he's an evolved offensive mind, but there's a stubbornness to him that drives me absolutely insane, because then later in the game, in similar situations, you go back to something a little more traditional, and guess what? Shocker. It starts working, and the Jags are on their heels. It's just too cutesy to me at times. I'm not worried, but it is frustrating.
You know, when you bring up it that it drives you crazy, I have to resist the urge of saying that that's a very short ride. But
I mean, that's accurate. You speak no untruths there, Poop.
I'm trying to be polite. But hey, he did go to Alec Ingold on 2 3rd and 1s, which is something he didn't do a lot. And he didn't do it last year because he tried it one time in the Denver game,
right,
in the Dolphins' own end, got stopped on 4th and 1, gave it to Ingold again got stopped. And I don't know if he just lost confidence there, but twice they did it today, twice they converted. So maybe it's the start of something.
Well, I guess, how do you rationalize this as well? Because I also think, too, sometimes you're throwing on 3rd and short like that because you don't trust the offensive line if you're Mike McDaniel. But then late in the game, last couple of series, who's getting the push and open up running lanes all over the place? The beleaguered offensive line. So it's just a bizarre thing to try and balance, at least today, with what McDaniel was doing, because he's basically acknowledging a bit of a deficiency up front, but then that deficiency was really, really muscle bound and strong in the final couple of possessions on the ground.
I might even say it wasn't a deficiency. Okay, let's move on. Smith, thank you very much. We acknowledge our friends. Snyder AF, thank you very much for the contribution. Glad we won, but offense is very worrying. Defense surprised me on how well they played. Stop behind the line of scrimmage swing passes. I think you're going to have a friend over here in Mr. Levica. And then for me, the offense very worrying. 400 again. If you look at the numbers, 400 yards, 101.1. Tyreek and Waddle both over 100.
Yeah, and again, it doesn't matter when they come. Again, the first half, things looked stagnant. It was stuck in the mud. It was very uncharacteristic of at least an early season Dolphins team. But boy, was that thing humming, and big plays were all over the place in the second half. Now, after some big plays, you started going backwards immediately, and there were some penalty issues today as well. But you can't argue with the end result, especially on the scoreboard, but you put up the gaudy offensive numbers we're used to as well. I think some people are still caught up in the first and second quarter and what they saw or what they didn't see more appropriately.
Correct. It's one of those where you look at the game itself and it's like, and then you look at the final set. Whoa, 400 yards, and then Waddle. But again, they had the big plays. They had the big second half. So
yeah,
Matt. Oh, thank you, Matt. Love the show. Jeff Wilson looked like the best between the tackles runner today. Was he and the O-line good, or was the Jags defense just gassed? Missed that style of running when you need the tough yards. And by the way, hat tip to myself, because I predicted to another media member who shall remain nameless because it's not important, but I said, you watch, Jeff Wilson Jr. is going to be active ahead of Jalen Wright. And this is precisely the reason. Yes, he is the best physical runner on this team right now. The O-line was good at the end. The Jacksonville defense, without a doubt, had to be gassed and then missed that style of running when you needed to. Yeah, and this is why I think it wouldn't surprise me. I said all along, and I said on this show, that to me, Jalen Wright's carries are going to be determined by Achane and Mostert, their availability week to week. If Achane and Mostert are good to go, Wright to me becomes a little bit redundant, different skill set, and then Wilson brings a different skill set, so you go Wilson. That's
and it's a nice sort of bevy, a collection of backs you have. And like you said, Achane and Wright, you're talking about a little bit of a similar type of deliverance from a talent standpoint, what they have. But the Jeff Wilson, one, including him on the roster and then making him active today, it just shows you how important he is and how he can muscle through tackles. He finds holes very quickly. He's extremely underappreciated because he's been doing this for multiple seasons now for the Dolphins as well. And as far as the question of did the Dolphins offensive line perform well or were the Jags just gassed, it can be both. And
the answer is yes. The answer is yes.
Yeah, you're right, exactly. Yes, period. Right. And one can also contribute to the other. So I listen, I'm never going to be the first one to line up and say, oh, Dolphins offensive line, bravo, spectacular. But in the fourth quarter, what can I say? Because I'm being unfairly nitpicky if I'm like, that was good enough. And it showed. It's right there in front of your eyes. Trust your eyes with that.
Without question. Okay, next one, Johnny Rotten. Thank you very much, Johnny. Phillips sack, Holland forced fumble, Campbell sack, Waddle and Hill 100 yards, no injuries and a win. what's your opinions on Jonnu and our guards? I don't know how we got from Phillips, Holland, Campbell, Sack, Waddle, but I got you. Jonnu had a rough game. There's no two ways about it. He'd probably be the first to tell you he had a rough game. The guards, I think Liam had a better game. It's tough to say a guard had a great game when you got 2 holding penalties.
Mm-hmm.
But again, the runs in the fourth quarter where the guys are going 5 or 6 yards a clip, they're not blocking the guys by themselves. So there was some good work there. But overall, no, it wasn't. In fact, it wasn't a good game for the tight ends, period.
Period.
I didn't have a good game here either.
It was not a good tight end day at all. And the last time I was on the All Dolphins podcast with you, Alan, back in the back during camp, early part of camp. It was right after the Dolphins signed Jonnu Smith, and I said that he has a chance to change the fortunes of this Dolphins team potentially, because the biggest glaring omission in the Mike McDaniel offense through 2 seasons is that the tight ends have really not played a part in anything that they do in any significant way. And I was excited to see what Jonnu Smith could do in a Mike McDaniel offense. But I got to say, 1 catch and then just a complete no-show today doesn't feel great. I don't love where we're going with that. And then Durham Smythe was around. I think I saw him more than Jonnu Smith, but he was a complete non-factor as well. I still am uncomfortable with this Dolphins offense without the presence of a tight end, and still haven't figured out a way to incorporate that aspect to it. And it's troubling.
It will be a problem later, not in every game, but at certain games it can be a problem. And by the way, speaking of the tight ends, I meant to look this up because I have the game book here. And by the way, the fourth quarter stats: Dolphins 105 yards, including 55 on the ground. Jacksonville 4 yards. That's some pretty good domination.
Yeah.
And then, Evan Ingram, who was thought to be a factor heading into this game, 1 catch for 5 yards. And there was a very good pass breakup on 3rd down by Javon Holland, part of his really, really good game. So hat tip to the Dolphins secondary for taking care of that. Noel B1. Noel is one of my guys. Thanks, Noel. I think McDaniel running late in the game on short yardage shows growth to me. Yeah. Guys, he's Mike McDaniel, newsflash, is a smart guy. By the way, did you know he went to Yale?
Wait, are you serious? He went
to
Yale? Wait, did you know that Ryan Tannehill was a wide receiver in college?
Did you know Tom Brady was a 6th-round pick? Come on.
Oh, man. Listen, Mike McDaniel is an extremely smart man. And I think finally he said, that's the whole reason Jeff Wilson's in the game at that point. We hadn't seen Jeff Wilson up to that point, and all of a sudden it's, hey, all right, north-south guy. Hey, here's our fullback. Thanks, Alec. Hey, Jeff Wilson, here you go. Bang, bang, bang. And that's the whole point. Mike McDaniel finally said, all right, I've seen enough of everything failing at the edges. Let's run straight ahead. And thank you, football God, because it paid dividends, and it was beautiful while it happened as well.
Well, boy, Malkiewicz, sorry, I apologize if I'm butchering your name. Trust me, I know the feeling. It happens to me every once in a while. Thank you for the contribution. Is it possible that the tendency to throw to the sidelines was meant to set up the runs up the middle in late game?
That's an extremely playing the extreme long game there. If on 3rd and short in key moments, you're throwing to the edges solely so you can have something with 3 minutes left in the game go up the gut.
Yeah, not only that, if it had Jacksonville gone up 24-7, I'm not sure what difference it would have made that you had runs out the middle. So no, I think that's Mike McDaniel's very smart. I don't know if he's that.
We might be giving him a little too much credit if we're going to those lengths right there.
Agreed. Snyder again. Hey, big question here. Who is our wide receiver 3? Where was that player today? LOL. That is an awesome. You know who was wide receiver 3? It was Devon Achane.
That was Achane. Yeah.
They don't have a wide receiver 3 right now.
No.
Not Braxton Berrios. It's not Robbie Chosen, who got a lot of playing time. Grant Dubose also got snaps on offense, which surprised me. I don't know that any of those guys actually even got a target. Berrios, I know, got a target. But I don't think the other guys.
But it was well over his head.
Sorry, Ken. Berrios had 2 targets, none for Chosen, none for Dubose.
I really like Achane, obviously, and I think he is a game-changing talent.
Yep.
But if you're going 17 games Devon Achane is your number 3 receiver. Well, and obviously you're expecting Odell Beckham's going to be back and be functional here soon. But the fact that Poop and I can't say, oh yeah, it's just a matter of time, because we don't quite know. That's not a long-term successful strategy. It's a great story, fleetingly, but it's not a good long-term strategy to have Achane as your number 3 receiver. It's just not. So it's something you can live with for maybe a couple of weeks, but if we get into October and this is still the case, uh-oh.
Matto, again, thank you very much. Should we just ignore those ugly-looking short passes Tua can throw? Might put us in a bad headspace for judging him. We'll shut up, take the win now, LOL. Thanks for the streams. You're welcome. And no, but this is, I'm going to get myself in trouble again. This is why I always push back again a little bit against the hyperbole. If people are going to look at the final numbers and go, whoa, 338 yards, 101.1. Again, can we please, first of all, appreciate the privilege the Dolphins and their fans have of having 2 freaks in terms of speed at wide receiver like Tyreek Hill and Jalen and what it does. Oh, and now they added Devon Achane. So and Tua does a great job of orchestrating the offense and doing what he's asked to do. But let's not overlook the fact that it's set up for a quarterback to put up big numbers with those speed freaks on the outside.
No doubt. Here's my philosophy on this, and Poop, I'll fight to the death for Tua. I love the man. I wish I could nuzzle him into my bosom and
Jesus, you mean like this, Ken?
Yeah. I love him. That's so cute. Oh, that was a really nice graphic effect. I can tell you've really established this thing now. So I will always go to bat for Tua. Okay. That said, this week, I heard someone on ESPN saying, because of the nature of where the game of football has gone, and even above average quarterbacks are something you have, just barely above average quarterbacks are something you have to hang on to because it comes at such a premium. It's such an important position now. The whole point of football, especially with the evolution of defenses and speed and all of that, is to find a guy who can just run your system. It's okay to acknowledge you have a system quarterback, because quite honestly, there are very few quarterbacks left in professional football that can go to another situation and execute somebody else's offense. There's maybe 3 or 4 of those quarterbacks. So it's okay. It's okay to acknowledge that. And there's nobody better, in my opinion. He's a point guard. He's a point guard with a lot of talent around him, and he does it in a timely manner. He does it in an accurate manner, and he does it in a very comfortable manner for his stars around him. It is okay if Tua is just a point guard. He got paid. Why are you complaining about it now? He got his money. He's a long-term option now. Let him point guard. It's totally fine, and he did just that today.
I have no problem with that. I don't disagree with anything you said, but again, this is why I get accused of not giving Tua enough love.
I mean, you're a hater. You're a hater, Pope.
I love you, though, Ken.
I love you. Can you give that little? Can you do that?
Yes.
The heart thing again? There it is. Oh, that's so cute. I love it.
And it's funny because other people who have a MacBook Pro like I do try to do it and they can't duplicate it. I have no idea. It's not like I looked up settings how to do heart.
Right. It just happened.
One time I was just like, and I just made the motion like this, and all of a sudden the hearts popped up. So and now I just can't stop. I can't stop much to the chagrin of a lot of the viewers here.
Right.
Okay. Should I go from the top or from the bottom on the comments here? Let's see. We're going on 45 minutes. We'll go on another about 10 minutes, Ken?
Sure.
Okay, let's do this. Okay. I don't know if I get no. These weapons don't matter if that line gives pressure at the worst possible time, not to mention the struggling run game. Well, again, 400 yards. They won the game. They controlled the game in the fourth quarter. So
right.
Sorry.
I do think sometimes where people their insecurities about this Dolphins team, they try to project them because they feel like they need a therapy session. They need someone to tell them it's going to be okay. I don't know. I'll bite. It's going to be okay. You're mentioning things that we know are an issue, but They're going to have to work around him. It's a reality. It's not just going to magically go away because now we're acknowledging them after the fact. They're just going to have to continue to find ways to maneuver around it. There are plenty of teams that have had shaky offensive lines that have made deep playoff runs in the past. Is this Dolphins team going to do it? I don't know. But have we seen a body of work that suggests that it could happen based on what other teams have done? Yes. So it's a long year. You either have the fortitude to handle it or you don't.
What Ken said.
Yeah.
Somebody's taking a shot at you here. Mr. Success, Brady point guarded. Ken trying to take some of Tua's flowers away from him. Before you, if you feel like replying, before you say that, here's the thing about Brady. Yes, Brady was a point guard. Brady was also more often than not completely insane in the clutch in big games. That's what made him stand out more than anything else. And by the way, he didn't point guard a lot of times. Yeah, now you know what? I'm getting worked up. He didn't point guard a lot of times when his wide receivers were guys like, go ahead and name me one of them. Okay. Yes, for he had the crazy combo with Randy Moss and Wes Welker in 2007. He had the two great tight ends, Gronkowski and the late Aaron Hernandez, and like the early 2010s. But there were a lot of times when his receiving core was nothing spectacular.
Right.
And he made it work. So
I wasn't trying to diminish Tua by saying he's a point guard. What I'm saying is that this organization and this coach feel most comfortable with him, with the motion and the misdirection that happens within this offense and the speed. Like with all the speed the Dolphins have, trust me when I tell you, this wouldn't be for any quarterback, right? Like some rando couldn't come in and just run this thing to the precision and perfection that Tua does. Okay, there's a particular skill set that allows you to be able to handle this. Like me, I'm a very, very I'm a soft person, right? And I get scared easily. If you put me behind a Ferrari and you said, Ken, put the pedal to the floor, go, I would be peeing all over myself, okay? I couldn't handle that type of power, just like many quarterbacks couldn't handle this type of power. So I'm not trying to disrespect him. And if you're saying Brady point guarded, trying to take some shine from Tua, hell, if Tua then is a Brady-esque point guard, you know what that means? The Dolphins are going to win a championship here at some point. I'll take that. I don't care. Fine. If point guard or not, follow Brady's path. That's my suggestion to Tua. Follow Tom Brady's path, okay?
Yeah, see what he did? Do it. No. The starting offense we saw today hasn't had a ton of practice time together with the player rest and injuries in preseason. Were people surprised they started a bit slow? I wasn't.
No.
Fair point.
Oh, yeah, it sucked to watch. It was not fun. I was legitimately not having fun in the first half. I told my wife sitting next to me, hey, I'm not having fun. But then it got fun again. But yeah, it's sort of it's the evolution of things.
She say, suck it up, Buttercup.
Yeah, and then she punched me in the arm and said, I didn't feel that. Didn't feel good at all. And so again, like this is all work in progress. They're having the same conversation in Cincinnati today, and they took an L. The Dolphins didn't.
Very good point. Malkiewicz, again, sorry. All quarterbacks are system quarterbacks. Imagine a team saying, I'm going to use a system that doesn't use my quarterback strengths to see just how good his weaknesses are.
Right. It's okay. A system quarterback is not a diminishment. It's not an insult. Not anymore. Not in 2024. It's not an insult anymore.
Snyder AF, after seeing the Bills game, what is the outlook for next week? Confident or no? I did not see the Bills game. I'm going to watch it, that condensed version. I'm going to try to watch it tomorrow. I was busy watching the Dolphin game.
Right. I didn't hear this happen, so I'm going to assume it didn't. Josh Allen didn't get run over by a steamroller. So if number 17 is playing, not sure how I feel about Thursday night. There, that's my expert analysis on that one.
Yeah, and I'm going to say it again, and I'm going to get in trouble for saying it again. Yeah, that dude can play. Didn't pass a whole lot. 18 for 23, 232, 2 touchdowns, no picks. They did give up a kickoff return for a touchdown.
Right. DJ Dallas.
Right?
Yeah.
So that made it closer than it should have been. Okay, a few more comments before we wrap this up. So you go, 2 TD passes, 2 touchdown runs. Okay. I'm no math major, but that sounds like 4 total touchdowns.
Yeah, that's pretty good. So you know what? I'm going to do the same thing I always do when the Bills and Dolphins play, and I'm going to grab my football rosary and just pray.
Okay. Matto, sucks that it is a Thursday night game. Guess what? Yeah, I don't disagree with that, except two teams have to play that second Thursday night game. And for the Dolphins, since Thursday night football became a weekly thing, it's the first time they've done it. In fact, I threw out Mr. Levica, you're much too young to know this, but the last time the Dolphins played the Thursday night game in week 2 was in 1981, when it was not a weekly thing, but they were throwing occasional Thursday night games, and they played at St. Louis to open and Pittsburgh at home on the second Thursday night.
That's we call that year 3 BK, the year 3 before Ken. And then everything starts at 0 in 1984 after that. The Thursday night game, listen, somebody's got to do it. It's just part of the deal. And another thing is, too, and I know that Amazon doesn't necessarily follow the same formula as the networks do, but if you're a high-profile team and you're exciting to watch and people like your talent and you've built this winning roster, guess what's going to happen? You're going to be plopped in uncomfortable regular season situations. Hence, talk to you Thursday night against Buffalo.
And what do we got? 2 Thursday nights, 2 Monday nights, 1 Sunday night.
Mm-hmm.
That's before flexing. So
right.
There's the price you pay for being relevant and a team people want to watch.
And what's the cap? What's the primetime cap put on teams? Is it?
I believe it's 6.
Yeah, 6. Yep. So welcome to the flex if you're in playoff position too.
Correct. And Dolphins play at Cleveland in week 17 on Sunday night. It could be flexed out if the Browns are out of playoff contention, but it would take a lot because the Dolphins draw eyeballs, and that's also a factor in who they pick. Okay, a couple more. What do we got here? Mark Heavy, thank you. Thanks, Poop Rewinding, to watch the recap from the beginning. Appreciate you in the show. Fins up. Thank you very much. I appreciate you, and I appreciate every one of you guys who are here watching us and listening to our gibberish, especially Ken's.
Yeah, a lot of gibberish.
I kid. I only kid the one. You only kid the ones you love, by the way.
And I appreciate that. That does warm my heart. Oh, one thing I wanted to point out: we talked about the ugly first half from the Dolphins. Speaking of ugly uniforms, those Giants uniforms, an absolute nightmare. I mean, just garish. And I understand you're trying to celebrate your history if you're the New York Giants, but there are some things from your history that just shouldn't come back. Like the Dolphins should never bring back Cam Cameron to the proceedings, right? You don't need that part of history, right?
Astray.
You don't need to bring that back. You don't need to bring back Ted Ginn and his family. Okay, like there are just some parts of your history that don't need to make an appearance again. And those horrific rugby-looking pieces of trash are horrific. Those uniforms against the Vikings purple is maybe the single worst uniform combination in all of sport, in the history of sport, going back to the Coliseum. Ugh, God.
You feel better now? Damn.
Oh, God, it was horrific.
No, and by contrast, the Seahawks are wearing their throwbacks, and those uniforms. I'm going to do it.
Just perfection. Yeah,
they deserve the hearts.
Yeah, they do deserve the hearts. It's so funny, and this goes for the Dolphins too. Anytime these teams wear their '80s throwbacks, their '70s/80s throwbacks, and to me, those were the pristine era of NFL uniforms. You always say, go back to them. It's the same thing with the Patriots, where. What's the Patriots' name? I don't know. Pat the Patriot? I don't know. But
Pat the Patriot snapping
the football. Yeah, and Bruce Buccaneer. Bring them back. Enough already.
I agree. I don't disagree. Let's try to find a Dolphin question or comment to end this episode because Uni's not going to do it. I will acknowledge my good friend Jason Kirkland here. Thank you, Jason. Much appreciated. Yep. No, good point right there.
Yeah, I know.
Eddie Shea Bullis had a long career. Yes, he did.
So, Matt, what I will say is I will also apologize to Ted Ginn and his family. From a Dolphins perspective, I don't feel great, other than the 2 return game he had against the Jets. Other than that, and the Monday night deep ball from Chad Henne against the Jets. That was good, okay? But those are the only 3 notable plays he made in his Dolphins career after all the drama that came with him getting drafted in the first round. So I'm not going to take back my stray from a Dolphins perspective, but from a career perspective, and the man played in the Super Bowl with the Carolina Panthers, I apologize long-term. Ted, you carved out a nice career. Well done.
Yes, you did. Absolutely. On that note, we're going to wrap it up. Want to thank my guest today, Ken Levica.
Appreciate you.
Voice of Florida Atlantic University Sports, also ESPN Radio.
Yeah, I'll actually be on 10 p.m. to 1 a.m. tonight, ESPN Game Night on ESPN Radio. Check your local ESPN affiliate talking about all of week 1 of the NFL.
Very nice. And you also can follow him on Twitter at KLV Says. You can catch my work on Miami Dolphins on SI.com. My Twitter handle is at Poupart, the last name Poupart NFL. Want to thank everyone. Please like, subscribe, share, all that good stuff. And again, Miami Dolphins 1-0 after a 20-17 victory against the Jacksonville Jaguars. That's 4 victories in a row in season openers for the Dolphins, which is tied for the second longest streak in the NFL, active behind New Orleans, which now has made it 6 in a row after they spanked Carolina today. Eagles also are at 4 in a row, and the Buccaneers were at 3 coming in. They're playing Washington right now. So, again, it's a good start for the Dolphins. Doesn't matter how they got there. Dolphins are 1-0. Thanks, everyone.